Have you ever had everything going well, and then suddenly life hits? One moment, you're surrounded by peace, success, and the laughter of loved ones. The next? Silence. Loss. Confusion. It's a reality many of us face, sometimes without warning. When the storm comes, it doesn't always knock first. There was once a man named Job, a man who had it all. Wealth, respect, a loving family, and deep faith. He was known across the land not just for what he owned, but for who he was. And then, in the blink of an eye, it all came crashing down. But this isn't a story of defeat. This is a story of resilience. Of a man who held on when it made no sense to. Of a faith that endured even the darkest night. This is the story of Job. And maybe, it's the story you need today. Job wasn't just rich, he was blessed. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. Thousands of sheep, camels, oxen, and donkeys. Countless servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. But it wasn't his wealth that made him great. It was his character. Job was described as blameless and upright. A man who feared God and turned away from evil. He prayed daily, not just for himself, but for his children too. He even offered sacrifices, thinking, maybe they sinned in their hearts. He wasn't perfect, but he was faithful. And maybe that's you. Maybe you've tried to live right. You've honored God. You've done your best to walk in integrity. And still, life happened. Still, pain came knocking. Still, loss found you. You're not alone. What happened to Job wasn't punishment. It was a test of faith that would shake the heavens. One by one, the messengers came. The oxen and donkeys are gone. Fire burned up your sheep and servants. Raiders took the camels. Then came the most heartbreaking of all. Your sons and daughters were feasting. A mighty wind struck the house. It collapsed. They're all gone. In that moment, Job lost everything. But what he did next changed everything. He tore his robe. He shaved his head. And he worshipped. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Even in his grief, Job chose faith. He didn't understand. But he trusted. Sometimes, that's all we can do. Even when the world falls apart, we worship. Even when our hearts break, we believe. But the test wasn't over. Satan came again. This time, to touch Job's health. Suddenly, Job was covered in painful sores, head to toe. He sat in ashes, scraping his skin with a broken piece of pottery. Everything outside of him had been stripped away. Now, even his body became his battlefield. And still, Job did not curse God. His wife looked at him, and she couldn't take it anymore. Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die. But Job replied, shall we accept good from God and not trouble? This wasn't denial. This was devotion. In the face of unspeakable pain, Job held on. And maybe that's where you are, broken, bruised, misunderstood. But still holding on. Word of Job's suffering spread. And from distant lands his friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar came to see him. When they saw him from afar, they barely recognized him. They wept, tore their robes. And for 7 days, they sat in silence beside him. Sometimes silence says more than words. But then, the silence broke. Job cried out. He cursed the day he was born. He poured out his pain. He asked why? Why is life given to those in misery, who long for death that does not come? And instead of comforting him, his friends began to correct him. They said, surely, Job, you've sinned. God is just. You must have done something to deserve this. But Job defended himself. He knew his heart. He knew he had done nothing wrong. And yet, he still suffered. I am blameless, he said. Why must I suffer? And in this moment, Job represents so many of us. When life doesn't make sense, and we're left searching for answers that don't come. Yet, even in his doubt, Job's faith never died. He declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." He wasn't letting go. He clung to his Redeemer. Even when the pain seemed louder than the promise, Job's heart beat with hope. He said, "I know that my Redeemer lives, and in the end he will stand on the earth. After my skin is destroyed, in my flesh I will see God." He believed, even when it hurt. He trusted, even when he couldn't trace God's hand. That is courageous faith. Then, the storm came. But this time, it didn't destroy. It spoke. From the whirlwind, God answered, "Who is this that questions my wisdom with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me." God didn't give Job explanations. He gave him revelation. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?" God reminded Job of the stars, the sea, the wild creatures, the cosmos. Not to humiliate him, but to humble him. To show him, there is a plan, even when you don't see it. And Job was silenced. He said, "I spoke once, but I will say no more. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." And in that moment, Job didn't just understand suffering. He understood God. Job you through.